6 o'clock, and at this point, I'm going to call to order the November 1st, 2023 meeting of the Hollis School Board. First item on our agenda is agenda adjustments, nominations, resignations, retirements, and correspondence.
I have a couple items regarding agenda adjustments. The first one is under deliberations number 3, the annual meeting calendar. That is still under discussion with legal, so we'd like to take that off for tonight. It's probably going to change slightly, not drastically, but we don't want to approve something that will probably change as early as Friday. The second, we're asking if we could move our non-public up to put it basically prior to public input. Lauren has an item for the board, and she has a commitment tonight to pick up children, so if we could move that, that would be great. Yep. And then that's
If we don't move it, she doesn't have to pick them up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Settle in, kids.
They
Think about a
get,
snack.
they get upset with that sometimes. So those are the two agenda adjustments that I'm asking for.
Excuse me.
Okay. Can we also, I would also like to consider adding a discussion item around our board goals.
Mhm.
Are there any discussion of any of those agenda adjustments? Everybody's good with that? Okay.
Okay.
All right. We'll make those changes.
Next, I have a resignation. I don't know if the board is aware, but Amy and I were notified that Andrea will not be able to serve. So I just wanted to quickly kind of review the process with the board. That falls under policy BBBE, when a board member resigns. So tomorrow we will post for the community that if there are interested candidates that would like to serve on the board, they can either email the chair or the superintendent. Amy and I will talk and discuss during the month and schedule them for quick interviews, discussions at our next meeting. And then the board would appoint somebody and swear them in, and they would actually be seated at our next meeting. Okay.
January.
December, if they're here for the December board meeting.
So the vote would happen at the December meeting,
It can, if you so choose.
and then
if
the
there were
person
two-
could serve right away.
Correct. But if there were 2 or 3 candidates and the board wanted time to deliberate and not select somebody to January, they could do that as well, Tammy.
In the past, when this happened, that someone had to leave the board in December, they had to miss the December meeting, so similar time frame. The board then decided that the budget process, et cetera, was so far along that we chose as a board to not fill the seat. Is that not an option?
The legal counsel is recommending that you do everything that you possibly can to
Okay.
find a candidate. If no candidate is found or the board can't find somebody, it does defer to the Board of Selectmen
Okay.
by statute. So I believe that once we put the advertisement up and get the word out, people will be interested.
Okay.
Okay? So we'll take care of that starting tomorrow, and I'll confer with Amy on that. I believe that's it for that section.
Okay. All right. Moving on to approval of minutes.
Okay. 2 seconds, please. I have so many tabs open for this month. Who did this to us?
If you're in board docs and you click on detailed agenda, they're.
I have all of it. I have so many tabs from all of those, though, because I've never been able to get on the Wi-Fi here. I don't know why. Okay, let's just keep going. Minutes, where is it? So I move to approve the minutes of the Hollis School Board public session of October 4, 2023, with the following amendments. Page 9, line 31, replace Chair Kellner with Vice Chair Roy. Page 21, line 35, sorry, these aren't in order, replace hearing with heading. Page 8, line 36, students should be singular, student. Page 16, line 29, FY24 should read FY24. Page 20, line 8, replace the period with a comma following type. Page 22, line 29, insert is before should be replaced with. Page 23, line 2, replace every with ever.
Second.
Thank you.
Any other changes? Okay, all in favor? Okay, and opposed? And I will abstain because I was not present.
And we have another set of minutes. Hollis School Board non-public session of October 4, 2023, and move to accept those minutes as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Again, I will abstain. Okay. Principals report.
In your board packet, Candy and Paula had provided you with their monthly principals report. I'd like to report that today, November 1st, we had a wonderful professional development day. It just happened to fall the day after Halloween, and we get some very positive feedback from a number of community members as well. We
I'm
have
sure for the teachers as well.
Exactly. We have Veterans Day celebrations coming up on November 8th and 9th at HPS in Hughes. No school on Veterans Day on the 10th. The 21st is an early release, and on the 22nd, we start Thanksgiving recess. They continue to finalize work on air handler number 3 up at Hughes, and it should be fully operational in the coming weeks. At HPS, the second grade bathrooms are completed and are in use. The kitchen is working well, and they hope to have the tray window open soon. And they're just finishing punch list items there. Just a quick highlight, Mrs. Neighbors and Mr. Ostrowski's classes did the all-town school meeting at HPS, which was very, very well received. Parent-teacher conferences are underway at both buildings and going well. Hughes is still looking for one support staff person, and Hughes Student Council has been formed and are starting to move forward. And also, they're excited to be rolling out their tiny business program this year. They have student entrepreneurs who talked about different things, and that will be opening mid-November. We're really excited, and I think the excitement comes from watching the children talk about it. Their passion and their excitement for it, it's easy as the adult to get excited. So that's the principal's report for this month.
I like to remind some people who haven't had kids in our schools that in the upper schools that Mrs. Miller has had the talent show every year, and part of that is a kind of open market that the kids can sell their wares. And so there's already a tradition of micro markets in our building. It's just been a volunteer matter with Mrs. Miller for I don't know how many years. So it's a good base to
Good point.
springboard for, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, the kids are very, very excited to get started. They had to fill out applications and get permission slips and
Yeah.
make their marketing materials, name their businesses. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it really is.
There's a lot of googly eyes in my house right now. It's just
I have more if you need them.
I will let them know if they run out.
Thank you.
I wanted to just chime in real quick. We had talked at the last meeting that we were going to come in and see the lunch process
yes.
in place, and so a few of us were able to go in, and it was fantastic. It's second nature to the kids. They know what to do. They help each other. They stack the currently, just so folks know, because we don't have that tray window yet in the new kitchen, they're using the paper trays.
Right.
They stack them perfectly, and they're all very helpful and very efficient. And it's just wild to just stand there and watch it happen. They all know exactly what to do.
They don't behave that way at home.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but mine
Well, mine's 23 and she still doesn't.
I don't care about it when I put a recycling item in the trash.
do.
though,
Oh,
so.
gosh.
Yes.
Goodness.
Mom, I think that can be recycled. Thank you for the reminder.
That's good.
But it was really awesome to see, so
Very
thank you
good.
to Mrs. Happy and all of the teachers who are
Absolutely.
enacting that here at HPS.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing that up. I had forgotten.
Of course, yeah, it was fun.
Anything else on the principal's report? All right, so at this point, I'm looking for a motion to move into non-public.
Hold on, do I need to read it
Should.
specifically?
If you could.
Should.
Okay, let me see if I can find it.
Otherwise, Don will yell at you and you don't want that.
These notes, these are-
Do you have it?
I have
I
it right
do.
here if
Give
you
me a
want it.
second.
Okay. I'm gonna-
I just wasn't sure which one we're reading. Do we need to? Pick one.
At the bottom.
Reputation.
Do you want, yeah.
This is terrible. Do you want to just read it?
I'll just
Amy,
do
right
it.
now?
Motion
I can't
by,
make a motion.
Yeah,
that the
you do
board
it.
by roll
Okay.
call go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91-A Colon 3, Roman numeral 2, parentheses A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee. And C, to discuss a matter which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of a person other than a member of the body or agency itself.
We have a
Second.
Good.
All right.
And I found it as soon as you started talking.
Yeah, me
I'm like, I'm just scrolling.
Can we go roll call?
Aye. Tammy, aye. Sorry.
Yeah, I.
Carol Roy, aye.
Amy, aye. Okay, we are in non-public at
6:10.
6:10.
We'll go down to the conference room.
not even know what you're talking about.
At 6:43, we are out of non-public. And just give me a moment. Okay, public input. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone here, but I will open public input at 6:43, and should any members of the public show up within the next 30 minutes, we will entertain what they have to share with us. Okay, moving on to the discussion section of our agenda. First item up is revenue and expense report for FY23.
Okay, so in your packet, you have the FY23 year-end revenue expense report. The auditors have completed their field work, and we ended the year with a fund balance of $613,336. This is the amount that will reduce the taxes for the taxpayer.
Can you repeat that number, please?
$613,336.
Awesome.
When you look at the breakdown of expenses and revenue, you will see that we spent less than we thought. So we had $297,406 left over in our expenses. That includes the fact that we did not touch the $95,000 contingency fund. And the ending revenue of $16,249,589 was more than expected, as we ended with $210,044 more than budgeted. Some of this is made up of some unexpected state funding that we got, $84,818. We had more tuition revenue than we expected. So with the expenses and the extra revenue, it leaves us with an unreserved fund balance of $937,306. With that, we fund the SAU Building Trust, Facilities Maintenance Trust, and Special Ed Trust. And then we fund the retained fund balance that you approved of $180,000, which left us with the fund balance to reduce taxes of the $613,336.
Excellent. Did we not spend a lot because we had open positions?
We had, yep,
Okay.
yep. Open
Could you
positions, which
comment
also-
on the facilities line item under expenses? I'm curious about that. That's 94,000 and change. I understand transportation changes benefits because of personnel, et cetera. It's students that we do or don't have to transport, et cetera. I'm trying to grapple with the facilities.
Some of it was unfilled positions. I think some of it also includes, because all of their funding lines are expenses for general maintenance and services and like that, so little amounts that would add up.
So some of it is personnel.
Yep.
And then on regular education, I guess that's also, I can see personnel and things like that.
That's,
yeah.
hiring savings, so bringing them in at a lower CAT and.
If it were up to me and I could stomp a fake shoe on the table, I would demand that no one anywhere be allowed to say hiring savings. We have not saved money. We have been unable to fill positions. It makes me so mad. I'm so sorry.
I know,
I'm a
it's-
stickler about that.
But
But the money's retained,
that's
I
the
get
reason
it.
why the money's there.
I know. I'm sorry to be obnoxious about it, but
Well, the hiring savings part is more of hiring them at a lower CAT than the person they're replacing.
and I also know that we have some open positions that didn't get filled
Correct.
yet, so. The money for food services for COVID, so that's.
Correct.
That,
Yep, so more
none of
free.
that residual accounting issues, those are done, right?
Well, what do you mean by
I mean,
accounting
like we
issues?
got, there was all the free lunches, et cetera, during the COVID
Yeah,
era.
that there's no longer.
And none of that is still none of those issues are still on the books here in
Correct.
front of us. Those are all passed, okay.
Anything else on FY23? Okay.
So how does that work? Just because I'm new to this. So we have this money to reduce taxes. How does that work in town? How do we return money? What does that actually
You
mean?
don't actually return it, it goes back to the town and it offsets the tax bill.
So when they set the taxes for this coming year,
Correct.
that amount of money that's
It's re-
interesting,
It's
okay.
reduced, and then they, once they know what they actually need to raise in taxes, that's how the tax bill is created.
So it affects next year's taxes
Right.
essentially.
And
So
also,
but it was
it's-
15 million, take away the 600,000, it's down to a 9.
Gotcha, okay,
15.4, sorry.
I gotcha.
Thinking 6 million, don't mind me. It's been a day.
It's all right.
That's why I don't
Okay,
work in accounting.
thank you. Yeah.
And Anne, also these trusts that are listed in that little box at the end, those are things that were voted for in March.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
All right, moving on to the current year. Okay.
So this is the first one for FY24 that we are presenting, and how we look at this is we have our year-to-date expenses plus what we have future encumbered expenses for. So we ask the schools to put in their purchase orders of what they think they're going to need to purchase for the entire year, and that's the encumbered line. So it hasn't necessarily, we haven't paid for it yet, but they're orders that they intend to place. So after we take our expenses and our encumbered, we are currently showing a budget underrun of $221,712. That's, we think, as of right now, doesn't need to be spent. The fact that it's still the beginning of the year, we'll continue to monitor the expenses, and we report back normally on a quarterly basis, but if the need arises, we'll bring this to your attention sooner if things get really, really tight. Our current projected revenue right now is $17,231,960. Where,
Where is that?
I'm sorry, where did that come from? Sorry about that. That's not right.
We
I'm
have,
like, what?
I'm looking for
All
it
of us were
too.
kind of like,
Hold on.
This is 17,223.
Oh, because of the year-to-date,
yeah.
what we've gotten plus what we expect to get
Right.
adds up to that. I apologize. That threw me off for a second because I wasn't seeing the number here. So although it's still early in the year, these figures leave us with a fund balance of $229,845 before we fund any trust for the next fiscal year. If we do fund the trusts with what we anticipate we would need for FY25, which would be $125,000 for maintenance trust, the $23,970 for building trust, and $25,000 for special ed trust. That would, well, Kelly kind of threw in and then we replenished retained fund balance with $55,000. It's low just because of how we're looking at the numbers right now. It would leave us with a fund balance of $875. So we pretty much try to account for everything right now, and as we continue to move forward, we continue to look at the numbers and see where we're at.
This is always very fluid.
Yeah.
I mean, even in March, April, people
Yeah.
wonder why aren't the numbers settled, because the fiscal year ends in July, June 30, and things can change.
Correct.
I had a question about the change in the adequacy aid calculation, and I think that resulted in additional revenue for us. Was that in FY23 or it's in FY24,
It's in this budget.
this current year? Right.
The intent is to let that just
Right.
fall to the bottom.
Is it included in these numbers here today?
Yes.
Okay, it is in here.
Yeah, it's not a significant amount coming
Okay.
to us.
Okay.
You're reading the papers about districts getting,
Right.
hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. That's not our case at all.
Okay,
And that's why we didn't do a special meeting
right.
to approve it. It'll just fall and offset the tax rate at the end of the year.
Okay, great. Anything else on FY24? All right. FY25 SAU budget.
Correct.
Yes, SAU budget.
Yep. We typically try to bring the SAU budget to each of the board meetings, so Hollis, the co-op, and Brookline, just because it's another opportunity for A, board members who make up the SAU board to hear it, but B, also certain people are more likely to watch a Hollis school board than an SAU board. So this just helps us get the information out. Our discussions at the SAU meeting were around offsetting our numbers by using fund balance, and we have taken that into consideration. So presently, the SAU budget basing a 3% increase in salaries for the SAU staff would be a dollar change of an increase of $113,388, which is a 5% increase. And that's where it's always that balancing act, because if we were to do that 113,000 in the Hollis budget, it wouldn't even get us to really a percent. But at the SAU with an overall budget of just over $2 million, that's a 5% increase. Now, we are going to use fund balance and recommend that to the board at their December meeting to offset what they have typically awarded for merit bonuses and to offset one-time costs. One of the areas that we've identified for one-time costs is the Title II funding to pay the required dues of the superintendent, the assistant superintendent in the BA. So Title II is federal funding that can be used for professional development. Our dues are to the associations that provide us our professional development.
BA being a business administrator.
Correct. Kelly also put in there just the fund balance, because that's a question that people will typically ask. So it just helps us to get the information out. It's not really something for the Hollis board. It's more the SAU board. And she did the same with the merit pay history, just so community members would have all that information. They'll see that again at the co-op meeting on the 15th, and then again at the Brookline meeting on the 29th. And then the SAU budget actually goes back to the SAU board in mid-December. And it is a public hearing at that point to approve the budget, because this budget needs to be approved so it can be incorporated into the 3 district budgets. So the apportionment formula would break this down and give Hollis their share, the co-op their share, and Brookline their share. So that's it. I really thank you for allowing us to use the Hollis meeting to, again, get word out on the SAU budget. And that takes me to the Hollis budget.
Can I pause a second?
Absolutely.
Just gotta live with my didactic nature. I just think that if we're talking to the public as we do this, I just want to remind people that the SAU as an agency is not a school district. It is it falls under its own RSA as a municipal agency of its own type. It can't own property, et cetera. So it has a different funding flow than school districts do, and even differently than towns do. And so the use of unassigned fund balances to fulfill some of our obligations has a different dynamic in an SAU budget, I think, than it does for a school district or a town.
That's a great point, Tammy.
Because you can't raise funds as an SAU.
Right.
You can't own property. So you have to budget in order to ensure you don't have shortfalls during the year, because if there's a shortfall for any weird reason, that puts it back on the town, which is out of the question.
Right.
So then some years you end up with unassigned fund balances that appear to be too large, but that's where you can draw them down the next year for other expenses that are needed. And it's a perfectly reasonable model, but has nothing to do with us. It's how the state structures SAUs. Sorry.
Thank
Okay,
you.
no, I didn't know any of that, so, thank you.
It's very difficult to keep up with all the different nuances of the different agencies, but the SAU is a state agency. Right. Okay.
So moving over to the Hollis budget, we are presently in round 2.
Where are we?
I think the board realizes that we worked with both the Hollis School Board and the Hollis Budget Committee, with the primary overseers of the budget being the Budget Committee. They will give us a guidance number that we will shoot for, but ultimately the school board can disagree, we haven't, with the Budget Committee, and put forward the number they feel is necessary to run the schools.
Some of us have some years.
Some years, right? But overall, during my tenure, it has gone very well.
Yes, of course.
So under academics, the largest amount there we have is for the math program. I think the board is aware, we are presently piloting 3 different programs, looking at that, and those funding for HPS and Hughes are the placeholders that once we make that selection, we can move forward with that purchase. We are increasing our mentor program. That's simply, we feel that as our teaching staff continues to turn over and we have people unfortunately retire, we need to provide the support to the next generation coming in to support that. We have a whiteboard replacement phase in there, and we have the food waste program, which will be moving up to Hughes. And then the environmental studies, as you know, we put that program in up at Hughes. It's going very, very well, and these are the supplies and materials to budget for that for the future. From a personnel line, we have a new teacher in there. We have additional salary and benefits for the administrative assistant for special ed. We believe that's one of the ways that we can assist that administrator whose role is expanded by increasing the support time, because typically during the summer months, they're responsible for doing all of their scheduling and pieces like that. And by having this person in place, we could probably alleviate many of those items and be well prepared to open the school year.
Is that what you're calling secretary
Yes.
on that line? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
The special ed personnel, we are, as you can see, transferring two paras to Hughes from HPS. That's just the follow the child model, but we show it from an accounting standpoint because each entity is charged what they use. We have a para budgeted for the intensive needs pre-K. We have a regular PK para, and we have a coordinator at 0.5 and a pre-K teacher at 0.5. Our program continues to grow, and as we talked about looking at efficient ways to support the special ed administrator, where we're seeing the most growth is really with our younger students. And by having somebody who's able to do coordinate some of the administrative tasks, do some of the LEA meetings and those pieces, as well as teaching the program, we feel that'll be a model that will allow us to continue to expand our services for students, while at the same time not drastically increasing administrative headcount.
And that pre-K coordinator will be shared with Brookline.
We have extra days for para. We have some students who in their IEPs will be required to have their para. So we need to fund the days for the paras going from 191 to 221 as they take them through the extended school year programming.
Can I just ask a quick question going back to that PK coordinator?
Mhm.
On the line where it says it's split with BSD, it's only a minus 32,319.
Yeah.
But that's not half of the total that's listed above.
No, because if you look, so the position would be a half-time preschool teacher, so like
Right.
AM, so that's a portion of that. So really, there's
That makes
three
sense.
pieces going into the 116,000.
Got it.
You have the half-time and then the half Hollis, half Brookline coordinator
Thank you.
salary. So
Got it.
it's
So
divided by
it's a
3.
No, no worries. Thank you
Yeah.
for walking me through.
All right. So those are our personnel increases. Under programming, we are extending the HPS Model Life Skills Program. The self-contained programming is moving up to Hughes. So there's an
Exciting.
increase of 19,000 there for that
And
program.
these are students who could potentially be taken out of district if we didn't have this program.
Absolutely.
And I think it's just critically important for people to understand we're keeping children in their home districts, in their communities, with their siblings, their peers, et cetera.
And I think
And
worth
just from a
every-
monetary standpoint, it's a savings. If we had to send them to some other facility, there would be a greater cost for anybody looking at this,
I mean,
questioning the value.
a full-time residential program is going to cost the district between $400,000 and $500,000 for the student.
But it also places a student who doesn't have to be in that environment.
Correct.
It adds a
Right.
burden to their emotional life. I just think this is great.
We philosophically, as a board and as administration, very early in my tenure, decided that we were going to work hard to limit the amount of students because we just felt our programming was as good, if not better, than when we were replacing them. And we have seen tremendous growth for both the students who are with us and their non-handicapped peers because everybody wants to fit in. And it's amazing how much I've noticed, maybe, it's always been talked about, but to actually see very young children wanting to be so much like their peers, picking up skills in that they may have struggled to get if they were left at home. So I know a lot of times people ask about the value of a 3 and 4-year-old program. Well, these are students,
Critical.
because of that early intervention, we're making significant progress, and ultimately, in the long run, there is a cost avoidance. I don't use the word savings because it is
Right.
expensive, but it is, you're either gonna pay in district or out of district.
Right.
So we're avoiding significant costs.
Sure.
And those students who need to go out of district, God bless them, it's not a problem. It's
Yes.
just that for the kids who don't need to go out of district, this is much better arrangement.
And I would
What
commend our.
what did Amy always call it? Amy wrote, least restrictive environment.
Correct. Replacement computer equipment, you have the different pieces that we are requesting for students and staff, as well as iPads and the interactive flat panels, which we had a demonstration on early in the year. And then you see the same costs outlined for Hughes.
And this is a change from round one because, didn't we have like an IT trust or something, in round one, and that's why the costs are now in the budget?
Correct.
We've just changed sort of the
Yes.
funding model, okay.
Yep, when Carol, who did the presentation, looked at the funding models, she found a better funding model, because what we're really trying to do is avoid tax spikes.
Yep.
We're buying on a yearly basis, so that line item stays consistent, rather than all of a sudden we need 500 computers, and it's a few $100,000, and you see that tax spike. So, I commend her and Logan for their plans. In terms of the shared services software, those are to further enhance our security. As more and more, we are facing security attacks as people try to get data. So these managed services, Logan assures me will help us tremendously. As I often said, I'm not totally sure that I understand them, but I know we need them. Safety compliance issues, we are looking at an update for our alarm access control update. And speakers north and south of the schools at HPS that will further help with dismissals. Some more exterior cameras at Hughes, and entrance security upgrades phase 1. We did recently get a notice from the state of New Hampshire that they have opened up the security grants again. So Kelly will be filing security grants for each of the schools, and we'll see how we do with funding. We have been very successful at times and gotten nothing at other times. So we're hoping that we can do some of that work through the state grants.
I see that the radio system SAU-wide effort was taken off for round 2. Will that be attempted as part of those security grants?
We
Can
are
it be?
looking,
I don't even know if it qualifies, but would that be?
with the state security grants, we're looking at more what I'll call structural changes.
Okay.
Doorways, entrances and things.
Yeah.
We continue to work with the Hollis, the Brookline, Fire and Rescue and Dispatch for grants that those radios may qualify under.
Perfect.
So it's just out of the budget, it's not off our radar.
Perfect, thank you.
Can I ask you a question that, I'm sorry that this doesn't make sense to me, but, in round one for safety compliance, we were totaling $563,000, and in round two, we're at $91,400. I'm sorry. What happened in between there? I'm sorry, I
Okay.
didn't catch that.
We have the internal meetings where I cut the budget to get it ready to go to budget
Okay.
committee.
I mean, that's quite a cut.
I
You
love
were like, you're brutal.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh,
Okay.
I'm well known for being brutal. Yeah. 'Cause
It's budget time, Andy.
That's pretty big.
it should also be understood, though, that during round one, I ask all the administrators to give us everything they may need or
Wish
want.
list.
Okay, because what'll happen is, round one items that I cut this year will come back next year. And sometimes they don't, so it really told me that I did make the right cut because the principal really didn't necessarily have to have that. But if it shows up a couple years in a row, it's gonna find its way in the budget. But let me just give you an example.
Okay.
$74,000 in round one was for the radio system. So we're gonna
At each
still
school.
You're
try.
gonna see about the grant.
A grant. So,
What
but that's out in round two.
What about the AC solution?
Yeah.
That's a huge difference.
The Hughes AC.
Right.
upline.
We need to finish the Air Handler 3, which is gonna supposedly drastically change airflow in the building, because the unit we're taking out is over 30 years old. So until we have real data that tells us whether we still have a problem, we're not gonna fund it, because if Air Handler 3 takes care of it, right? Like if you're on the
Makes
the
perfect
bottom
sense,
floor
absolutely.
of Hughes, you have the Munters unit, which, I mean, it pulls air out. It's very, very comfortable there.
Very, very dry in the winter,
Very dry in the winter.
but not hot.
But the
in
second,
warm.
mainly the second floor, because if we decide to do something for the top floor, I would go with the air source heating units, because I have access immediately to the windows. So there's other solutions, but that was the other, that's the other major item that came
And
out.
this has been sort of a wish list item and consideration since we began the facilities changes in 2015.
Oh, wow.
We didn't start the changes, we started the study to look at them. So it's on the list of things we would love to do for the building, but there's always a lot of technical reasons to make that not a priority. And like Andy's saying, the air handler handles 30% of the building's airflow turnover.
Right.
There's lots of reasons why it's only just now coming on board, most of them being supply chain problems, et cetera. So we finally got it, it's on the building, it's
That's why we
working.
clap when we talk about air handler
Right,
3.
it's been a big
Or at
deal.
least that.
So then the next thing is this winter, they're going to rebuild some of the individual heating units and some of these buildings are, each of our
Everything needs
buildings
to be
are cobbled
updated.
together with additions, et cetera,
Sure.
different years. So the way, they're not buildings that were built in one piece with all of their systems integrated. And so as we repair very old things and replace and et cetera, it changes what's needed.
Sure.
So,
And for those of you who are familiar with Hughes, the upper level of Hughes is where the front door is. The other levels are actually below it.
Embedded in the
That's the
hillside.
third floor.
Oh,
The gym is on the second floor. The first floor is the lower area that he's talking about as serviced by the Munters unit. So it's interesting, it doesn't go up, it goes down as the hillside goes down.
okay.
and that has microclimates on each floor.
That's
and-
right.
All right,
That's
thank
right.
you. It's just because my first time going through this process and I see such a huge difference in the numbers, it's like, what am I missing here?
No,
Okay,
don't
so
panic.
that makes sense.
And
Okay.
the other thing is, please don't hesitate to ask.
Absolutely.
We do it all the time, so sometimes we just make assumptions.
Yeah,
So
no, it's okay.
don't hesitate. Under facilities maintenance, we have in both buildings, the largest thing is the enrollment expansion study. I provide you the NASDAQ numbers which show significant growth. So we're gonna look at what are our options.
Over and above what we've already experienced.
Yes. Yeah, in both communities. Yeah. We have some furniture there, moving to heating controls that are wall-mounted, which will further enhance our use of our new heating systems. Up at Hughes, we're starting the bathroom stall replacements, which are on the CIP, and some furniture at fourth grade. So if you go to the very last page, you'll see that we are presently at a 5.82% increase. When you added all the warrant items that are estimates at this point, we would be at 6.38. There are still 2 rounds to go, so I would likely to bet when we meet with the BudCom, they're gonna wanna see that number come down, and then we'll go back. And what we always do is we prioritize services for students first. Academic items very seldom, if ever, are cut. Those are kind of sacred. And then what you'll see is we may move some items out of the budget into the maintenance trust, which will bring the budget down and, again, allow us to still address buildings moving forward. So I'm very happy with where round 2 is, and I appreciate Candy and Paula's efforts. Right behind that, I think it's the first month you've got it, you have the Excel spreadsheet, which is the line by line of every expense we have and their increases and decreases. The new item sheets go into the spreadsheet in one line item, which is the 899s. So if you all of a sudden are going through and you see a significant increase, that is where the new items get pulled off the new item sheet into the overall budget. Okay. So that is the Hollis budget as it stands today, and it will be back on the agenda in December and January as well, for rounds 3 and 4. If I,
Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead, no, you had a question.
Anything else on the budget? I just wanted to make sure everybody was okay. Okay,
Thank you.
Okay. The discussion on a portable conference unit at the SAU, we are looking at a unit that would be placed on the SAU field. It wouldn't take much space up. It's the equivalent of 2 classrooms. And it has really got us thinking because we are also concerned about enrollment. So this portable conference unit also comes to us as 2 classrooms. So we're kind of now looking at that as a dual purpose of if we were to purchase it, and obviously enrollment grew, and we needed space, it would come over here and become classrooms. Not that you want to have portables, but at the same time, the enrollment may grow quicker than we expect. For us, a lot of it will be dependent on how the economy does. If the jobs market and things stay strong, I think our home building and everything will also stay strong in our 2 communities, which will increase people looking to purchase homes. The other piece is in our neighboring community, we have a few HOPs being proposed. HOPs are housing for older people. And many times, people want to stay near where they grew up, raised their children in that. So we may also see some families opting to move out of the big house into a HOP, which means that we'll now have a 4-bedroom available in Hollis. So we do, I'm watching it closely. The numbers are really kind of amazing, and it's going to get to the co-op eventually. So I'm really glad that we have done many of our renovations, and we are taking walks with our architect, just re-looking at all our spaces that we have existing to determine where we can go. One of the things I've discussed with Brookline, just so it's out there, is one of our largest growth area is pre-K and K. So it would be interesting to consider whether we should be doing a cooperative pre-K and K between the 2 towns, because that would free up 5 classes in each district, 5 classrooms. So from an enrollment standpoint, you're picking up those numbers.
They could fit
So
all of the
you're-
kids in one set of classrooms in one town or the other.
We would have to do a new facility.
Right.
Okay.
That
Gotcha,
would-
now I
makes
understand.
sense.
Gotcha, I was like,
Yeah.
I
So,
think that's gonna work out.
no, but when we look at the needs of the students coming in, it may give us our best bang for our buck. Long way to go in its infancy right now, but I just throw that out because it may be in the long run a cost-effective solution than an addition or something of that nature.
And what is the income associated with that PK program?
It's about cost neutral. It's not. We generate some.
tuition?
Yeah.
Slight revenue, again, depending on numbers and.
Right. But it's
Yeah.
not designed as a revenue. It would be something that both boards could consider, because I think there would be a lot of people that would be willing to look at that as an alternative to some of the private schools. Not that we want to impact any of the private schools, but if I had my kindergartner in the building and I could send my preschooler to the same building, that might be something a parent would like. So we're going to continue to investigate that further.
I have 2 questions for you, I'm
Sure.
sorry. I have not heard this term HOPS before. What is HOPS?
That was the housing for older persons, that's what he was spelling out.
Oh.
HOP, housing
It's
for older.
Got you, okay.
A lot of times you'll hear over 55 or housing over 62.
Okay, I haven't
New
heard-
Hampshire
heard-
uses a term called HOPS.
Okay.
One of the differences in some of the HOPS, not all, there's no age requirement. because they're starting to recognize that people are having children later in life. So
I've
somebody
been
could
seeing
easily
some
be
62
55 with an
pluses.
elementary student.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, so they don't have the restrictions
They
of
don't have the
having
rest-
children living in the
correct.
Oh.
that makes sense.
That I haven't heard of, because I've seen some 62 plus places in Nashua and things like that, as opposed to 55.
Correct.
But, okay.
Yeah, in the town.
That would explain
I
why
didn't-
you're
I
saying
didn't
people would
recognize
move
that.
from one house
Yeah.
to another. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Also, we talked about forming a committee to kind of work on this. Are you doing that internally right now, it sounds like? And
We are just starting to pull some pieces together. It's always my goal to kind of have some discussion points so that when a committee does come together, which will probably be happening next month, we'll probably discuss kind of membership. We just put together 2 months ago a facilities committee at the co-op, kind of looking at, theirs is more looking at some of the issues that we've already addressed here, with boilers, lights, those things. But in the Hollis one, it'll be more to look at,
Space.
building capacity.
Sure.
What can we do?
And for this idea of a co-op pre-K kindergarten, where that would be located would still be up for discussion, or are there some ideas already in place?
No ideas whatsoever.
Got you.
Totally just looking at our population. And when we look at older buildings, sometimes our youngest students are the ones that struggle the most. So a handicapped, accessible, brand-new building for a 3-year-old with a significant disability is gonna go a long way, you know? And
Okay,
it-
thank you.
Yeah.
And I think Hollis figures heavily in any discussion of a shared facility co-op-wise, because we have this asset. I mean, you've also talked in the past about potentially building something that would include SAU administrative offices as well as this early learning center type of thing. And if that were the case, for the Hollis voter, the Hollis taxpayer, there is on the asset side, the Foreland Lane property.
Correct.
If we weren't going to retain that as an SAU facility or as a whatever like that, then that could potentially assist Hollis taxpayers in funding something like that.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we've talked about that we would do before that would happen is we would redo the deed.
Right, we
So
keep
that
talking about that, we should just do
So the acres
it.
of the playground would belong to the school district, and the house and the parking lots that the house sits on would be a separate entity. And again,
These
this
are
is-
just thoughts and ideas, they're
Right.
just,
Right.
Discussion
It-
points
It's,
for the
it's
last
just,
few years.
Sure.
I think it's always, we've always taken the approach to share this information in its infancy, so that when we formed a committee, people would kind of have at least a little bit of background where
Sure.
we're going.
Of why,
Um,
yeah.
The whys.
Right.
And I think the enrollment numbers for the first time, we've heard they were coming, but now they're here. When you look at our first and second grades,
they were
We've
coming and
already
then,
added a
well,
teacher,
they were
right?
coming and then the
Yeah.
pandemic hit.
right,
So now we're getting
yep,
returned to.
Yep.
About the facility, since I brought it up, I am so worried about that maple tree. I'm so worried, the side that's dead is over the parking spaces. I'm worried about it. There.
Can you just clarify that you're talking about at Four Lund Lane,
Four Lund Lane, not at the
elementary
schools.
school
At
or
Four Lund
Albert?
Lane, giant, beautiful, old maple tree. I worried and worried it was gonna get cut down because of a personnel issue. That personnel issue passed. And now I'm noticing that the half of the tree that's not on the septic side, is done. And I'm really worried that I go by it multiple times a day sometimes, and I just see that it's really,
we will get it evaluated, and if we need to, we'll take it down. You may have noticed we had to take down 3 trees at the high school.
I didn't.
On your way in, you'll see the 2 on the left of,
You know where those trees came from? They were planted by the Hollis Preschool, which is a little nonprofit around town, by their graduating class each year.
that was excellent. We might need them back to plant some new ones, because we lost a couple, unfortunately.
Is it on the access road to the high school?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 2 on the left
Uh-huh.
when you go in, and then there's 1 over near the soccer field.
Oh.
Yeah, those are the 3. So I would say they were probably 25, 30 years old. They were nice, they died.
Yeah,
Mm,
I've experienced it at my own house.
yeah.
Like, thanks for the shade, but.
Yeah. And I'll turn it back over to,
So do we need to make any decisions on the portable conference unit? Because I know
No.
last meeting we were discussing something and we felt we didn't have enough information.
No.
No decision to be made tonight.
no,
Okay.
because it really comes back, we're really looking at the numbers. And for us
Okay.
to buy a conference room,
Yeah,
you know, it may not make sense if we need classrooms. So we can survive with our plush environment and stay status quo for a little while.
okay, thank you. So the last item on the discussion section was one of the agenda adjustments that I added was to talk about our board goals, which we've all, I think, been sort of thinking about. And you talked about one that I think is important for us to think about addressing is the enrollment. And it sounds like we'll move forward with establishing a committee or talking about the membership next month. I'd love to hear if you guys have any other goals. I have one that I'll share. I would like the board members to consider how we can sort of individually help drive increased participation at our annual meeting by parents of children in the district. And I don't want to put a burden on the administration. I'd like us to think about how we can do it. You know, we write a blurb for the principals' newsletters. Do we do backpack mail? Is there an opportunity to have a table or a flyer, depending when the town elections are and when the town, you know, depending on how the meeting calendar all shakes out. So the past few years, the participation at the district meetings by parents has been lackluster. And I think it's really important for us to start spreading the word however we can about the importance of being educated on the warrant articles, and is very important to come and vote. So that is a goal that I would like us to undertake. And it is something that may take several years to actually see results, but I think the sooner that we start, hopefully it puts us in a better position for future years.
Those are actually the two goals that I, independent of you, by the way, were thinking about, because I also want to make sure that we have proper representation of parents of kids in the
Yes.
school district. We've been incredibly fortunate to have lots of community members who support the public schools attend, but not the folks with the children actually in the districts. So that is something that I'd like to make sure happens. So as soon as we get that meeting calendar finalized, I think it's going to be really important for us to do all of the things that you just
Yes.
mentioned: the backpack mail, the newsletters,
Word
come
of
to
mouth.
events,
Yep.
word of mouth, talk to the PTA, see what they can do, because it's in their interest, obviously, because they care about the schools, that people are there. So
Yep.
I'm wholehearted in that, and of course the enrollment thing is very,
Yeah.
very important. We're already facing
I think it's noteworthy that it's not just that we get the word out, but I think in a casual conversation, I mentioned this to you before, Amy, the whole, why should I go?
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, because I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand. I think about
Exactly.
the public hearing that was at the SAU meeting recently, no one was there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so maybe it's because people don't know, and maybe they don't understand why their input would matter or why their vote would matter. So
Well, I
that's
think-
something we would have to write, I
Yeah.
would think.
Absolutely, and I think one of the things that I had heard from people when I asked folks, why don't you come? And they're like, well, I love what you guys are doing, I'm happy with it, why do you need me to be there to support you? Okay, so I think it is absolutely a point of education to say, well, the people who don't support what we're doing will make it a
Show
point
up.
to be there, right? I think we also have to take a look at, and this will be all part of this consideration of it, but we need to start making plans right now to have babysitting available at the meeting.
Yep.
Because that's been a huge concern, especially for the younger families, things like that. So I think that would be all part
Yep.
of the plan.
Exactly. The other thing we've talked about doing is potentially having a booth at Old Home Days. School board members, their flyers, calendars, information, you know, something just to, just.
I think we need to just be out more
As much as
community
we
events
can.
anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
All Day is kind of far removed from it. I mean, we have Luminaria coming up, you know, really soon.
Right.
And I don't know what else is coming up right before.
Yeah, we should think about
January, February.
Events. Yeah. Right. Yep.
Yeah, but as close as we can, because
Yeah.
people forget.
Exactly. So
know,
things that we
everybody's
can
busy.
think about that we can do very easily to help without putting a burden on the administration.
Totally agree with all of that.
Yep.
as a citizen of Hollis, I sign up on the Hollis town website to receive their alert messages, which are not alarm things, they're just announcements. And my email is not clogged. And they send out all their RFIs and their road closings and all the other things, and it keeps me informed about just what's going on with the town. The schools don't have that. It has been a technical impossibility, looking at Logan now, since he's the newest target for this, a technical impossibility for those of us who don't have children in the schools to receive the principal's newsletters. I understand technical impossibilities, but it seems like a lunatic problem in 2023. We've got all this stuff and I can't get the newsletters because I don't have children in the district.
I totally agree with that.
It's been in discussion since long before Andy came. How do we reach the general population as well as busy parents, et cetera? All the things you guys said are absolutely core issues, the babysitting, et cetera. But, 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago, when I moved here, there were 3 newspapers that covered Hollis and Brookline intensely. They had independent reporters who did investigative reporting independently with different points of view, et cetera, different perspectives, distance, scale, and they've all disappeared. The Telegraph's still there. It doesn't amount to anything. We don't have, aside from social media, a way, the newspapers of the past were very rich with letters to the editor, differing viewpoints, announcements, all kinds of, they were fun. It's really sad that they're gone, let alone unhelpful. And every community across the country has this problem. We need to be able to reach everyone. And for the parents, we need to, like Ann said, I think, make it clear that just because they like what's happening doesn't mean they're going to like what's happening next year.
Right.
It's not about pros and cons of public school. It's about investing your own intellectual talents and responsibilities in understanding what these schools do and helping to shape that with your presence, your vote, your questions. The microphone needs to be your friend. Right, and we have to promote that involvement.
Yeah.
I think, in addition, I think one of the other things that I heard from a lot of people why their kids, or they couldn't come, is their kids had school-related activities that night. I think that the school district needs to be like, you're not having any school-related activities
That's a
on the
good
night of
point.
the meeting because we expect that you're gonna go.
So I think
we need that buy-in soonest
so
on stuff like that.
last year specifically talking about it, it wasn't the school, it was, I believe, sports tryouts,
Right.
specifically baseball and maybe something else. So I don't know if we can also work with those organizations to sort of,
the youth
yeah,
athletics.
yeah.
Yep, there were cheerleading practices and
Yeah,
all sorts of
yep.
things. Yep.
March
Yeah.
is a busy time.
It is.
Yeah. But
And
if we
we're
can
so,
at least
yeah,
try.
exactly. And we're so grateful for the support from the community and everybody that does come out to vote. But it's just really important that everybody understands that this is,
They have a voice. and it's
exactly,
really-
exactly. And it matters. It matters.
I mean, how many times have we seen at district meetings over the 2 decades I've been here that parents who are perfectly supportive, board members very supportive, ask really tough questions and move the needle? It's not that we expect people to come out and vote with us or against us. It's that the devil's in the details, and this town has a brain trust like no other. And the students and the staff who work here deserve to have, all hands participating in the hard decisions, and asking tough questions, asking clarifying questions, voicing priorities, so that you're actually shaping the product, not just, team sports. You're either for or against. That's just not what it really is.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're sort of in alignment on working towards those two goals for the school year? Okay.
like it.
Great.
I'm not super fond of the idea of a booth at Old Home Days because that will just turn into a dunk tank.
I know. It was something that, yes.
Maybe we just do a
It-
dunk tank. Really just cut to the chase.
That's what I was thinking.
We'll dunk Andy.
Andy's like, Andy's tall, he won't go underwater. Andy, remember when Bob Thompson would jump in the
Yeah,
dunk
yeah, I
tank,
do.
the middle school principal? That was fun.
That was so funny.
And Rick Bergeron.
Oh, Bergie.
Okay. With that, I believe we are moving on to the deliberation portion of the meeting tonight. Okay. The first item is to see what action the board will take regarding appointing a board member to the SAU Budget Subcommittee. So as Andy mentioned at the beginning of our meeting, we had a board member who resigned, and that person was the representative to this SAU Budget Committee. So I would like to nominate member Carol Roy to the SAU Budget Committee.
That'd be great.
And I am looking for
I
a
second
motion
that.
to do such.
Oh, I move that.
Thank you.
Well, if you're nominating her, do we need a motion?
I'm just recommending her. If you could make the
Okay,
motion.
so I move
Yes.
to appoint Carol Roy
Yes.
to the SAU Budget Committee as the Hollis School Board's representative to the SAU Budget Committee.
Second.
Okay. So I had talked to Carol in advance to make sure that she was
That's good.
amenable to this, and she has served as
They already
the-
told me when the next meeting is.
she has served as a representative to this committee in the past, so she is very capable.
Excellent.
So with that, all in favor?
I'll vote for
Great.
myself.
400, that carries. Along the same lines, we also need to appoint a signer of the manifest.
Anne, are you already one?
Anne is already one. Carol is our alternate, and she has been filling in the interim. But we need, okay, so then,
Do you want to do it?
Yeah, of course, it's nothing. I've done it many times.
Okay. No, I didn't know if you wanted to
Sure,
jump in.
sure. I'm offering to jump in.
she is. Can I have a motion?
I moved to have Tammy be the signer of the manifest.
Wonderful.
Second.
Okay.
I would like to ask a question about this in the.
Before we vote? Okay, yep.
In discussion.
Mhm.
If we, I changed my mind. I'm not going to bring that point up. Never mind. Cancel.
I thought she
I'm
was
ready.
changing her mind and
No,
being
no,
the
no.
signer of the
Right.
I'm all
manifest.
done. The thought
We
went
haven't even
this way
voted
and then
yet.
it went.
Tammy signing the manifest, 400, that also passes. Okay.
Sorry.
And this next
No,
item
take it,
is no
that's fine.
longer.
Okay.
Okay, Anne, we're coming your way. Are you ready?
Oh, man.
And
It's always like so much beforehand. Okay, let me just go back to my notes. So here we are with JLC.
Excuse me, to
Yes.
interrupt. What about happened to the annual meeting calendar?
that was the one that Andy made an agenda adjustment because it's not
Yes.
final.
Sorry. I
Okay,
forgot.
if I'm remembering correctly, I think we have to move to discuss it before we do discuss it. Am I correct about that?
I think it's
Pulling
proper
up the
form.
outline.
Sure,
Best
yeah, let's
form.
make the motion and then we can discuss it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to find where it is on the outline.
You're
right
fine.
now.
It's way at the bottom.
You want to give me a page number on
I
this?
think 6.
And,
Are you on the
Six.
website? I mean, on the
what John
agenda
sent
site?
us.
We're on the
That should be it right there, isn't it?
So we're at.
JLCF.
It's actually page.
6, I think.
To me, it says 5.
there's your motion.
It starts with Appendix A.
Yeah, that's it. To
Okay.
amend by. Yeah.
All right. I move to amend policy JLCF by replacing Appendix A with Section I in each instance it occurs, and in Section 3F by inserting an advance notice of the event will be provided to parents following is needed, accept the third reading, and adopt policy JLCF wellness as amended.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Okay. This is pretty straightforward, I think. If you kind of go through, that is all that has been changed. We addressed a lot of concerns at the second reading, so unless somebody has something new to bring up that I could answer, I think we took care of everything.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with the update based on
Okay.
my kids are sad about the ice cream, but
Okay, all in
Alright.
favor of approving JLCF? Okay, 400. All right, moving along.
Okay, and so now we should be at policy. Oh, so FAC, rental property. So this one was kind of just sitting for a long time, yes.
Do you want to make the motion first?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Do you need your motion?
Okay, so, I move to amend, policy FAC by replacing beginning blank 2021 with, should be beginning no later than July 2024. And accept the third reading and adopt policy FAC rental of property as amended. Can I do that as I read it? It's not written properly. It's supposed to
Yep.
say beginning no later
Yep.
than.
That's fine.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So, that's the only difference there. So basically, that just updates the policy.
I
that-
second it.
I was
by the
gonna
way.
say, did we get a
That's fine.
second? Okay, all right, thank you.
got you. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Thank you. That only exists in Hollis and really nowhere else. But this would allow us to do a comparative study and, raise the rent if needed, if we get this portable.
Or make any other changes, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes, this is one that we had looked at a while ago. Okay.
Mhm.
Any discussion on this one? Okay,
It's also noteworthy, this was brought up at the SAU
that's right.
meeting,
Mhm.
and really nobody batted an eyelash.
Mhm.
So it seems like, there was no concern with the greater group
Right.
about it.
Yep.
Okay. All
So
in-
are we voting to accept tonight?
Yes,
This
because
the
this is
third reading?
actually the
Except the
third
third
reading.
reading.
Yes, even though there are many
years
years
in
in
between.
between, yes.
Mhm.
Perfect.
All in favor? Okay, 4-0-0,
All
motion
right.
passes.
So now we're moving into somewhere I feel we're gonna be doing a lot of the same stuff. So here we go. I'm gonna move to accept the second reading, of policy AC, and waive the third, and adopt policy AC non-discrimination, equal opportunity employment, and district anti-discrimination plan.
Second.
Okay. So let me just pull up AC. Nothing has been changed since our first reading, and you're going to see this kind of going through with the exception of one. So this was all, just to remind everybody, this is all kind of taken care of by legal, so it should be kosher.
Yep, great. All in favor? Okay, 4-0-0. Motion passes.
All
Okay.
right, and so now I move to accept the second reading and waive the third and adopt policy ACAA, harassment and sexual harassment of students. And once again,
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay,
and once again, there has been no change.
No
No
changes.
changes were requested at our last meeting.
okay. All in favor? 4-0-0, okay. Motion passes.
All right, so now I move to, this is for policy ACAAR, student discrimination, harassment, and Title IX sexual harassment complaint procedures. I move to amend section 3 under subsection A1 by replacing is with are, subsection A3 by inserting and parent guardian if desired. And in the second paragraph of subsection B1 by inserting and parents, guardians, following students. To accept the second reading, waive the third, and adopt policy ACAAR, student discrimination, harassment, and Title IX sexual harassment complaint procedures as amended.
Second.
That might be the longest motion ever.
It's quite long.
It's not, but it's a good one.
It is.
I appreciate these changes.
Yes.
This makes me
Yes, there was a
happy.
lot of
Thank you.
deliberation about it. We
Yep.
went through them piece by piece, and I believe we got everything that everybody needed, unless someone wants to bring something else up.
To make the motion longer next time.
Yeah, we know. Just wanna
No.
see me fumble over my words.
No, I'm satisfied with the changes.
Yes, thank you for making those changes. Okay, all in favor of that? 4-0-0, motion passes.
Fantastic. Which one are we on next? Our alphabet soup.
ACAB.
All right, and so I have moved to accept the second reading and waive the third and adopt policy ACAB, harassment and sexual harassment of school employees.
Second.
Again, no changes on this one. Okay. Were needed. Or requested.
All in favor? 4-0-0, thank you.
And I move to accept the second reading, waive the third, and adopt ACABR, Employee Discrimination, Harassment, and Title IX Sexual Harassment Complaint Procedures.
Second.
Discussion?
Again, no
No
changes were
changes to this
requested.
one.
Mhm.
Okay. All in favor? 400.
Excuse me.
Great. Okay, moving right along.
Okay, so I will move to rescind policy JBAA, sexual harassment students.
Second.
Okay, so, Annie, I'm gonna defer to you here. We did not discuss this at our policy meeting, and I am going to assume that this is on here because it is redundant, due to what we've just passed tonight. Am I
That's
correct in that?
correct. Yes, you are.
You can't rescind a standing policy without having something in place, so.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So it's kind of house cleaning.
Right.
Yep, okay.
All in favor? 400.
And moving right along, I
Yep.
move to rescind policy GBAA, sexual harassment and sexual violence.
Second.
Okay. For the
Again.
same reasons we just
Yep.
discussed. Okay,
Redundancy.
all in favor?
Mhm.
400. Great, okay.
And now, move to accept the first reading of policy EHAB, data governance and security as presented.
Second.
Okay, so this one, if you are able to pull up the document, you'll see with everything underlined, there have been some updates. This came from the sample language from the school board, New Hampshire School Board Association. This is in line with what Brookline has already approved. So,
Yeah, it's updating it to include the cybersecurity stuff.
mhm,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
So in section B1, where it crosses off no later than June 30, 2019, was it replaced with,
Actually, I think.
or was that only there because that was the first time that had been passed?
Yes, I think
Okay,
that was there
that's-
because it was when the policy was new.
And if you
Gotcha.
If you notice, it says June 30th each year, the final line to correct that. That's exactly, we have to work on making sure we don't need to change policies by putting specific dates in.
Totally fine.
Yep,
Yep, totally fine. I figured that was the case, just wanted to clarify.
yep.
Appreciate that.
Any further discussion on EHAB?
And everything that's in here actually works with the stuff that we have in place already with IT, et cetera.
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
IT sits on the data governance plan, so.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor of approving this for first reading?
Excuse me.
Okay. I believe
I think
that's.
that wraps up my role. Yep. Thanks, everybody.
Yes, we have come to.
Bravo.
Have we? Yes, we
We
have. Come to the end of the
Wait a minute.
end of the meeting. Okay.
Well, normally this is when we would non-public, but
Right.
we walked in
Okay.
around.
I was a little confused. Okay, so with that, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, and a
So
second.
moved.
Second.
Okay, and all in favor? Okay, so we are out. We are adjourned at 7:46. Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
I get to kiss my kids goodnight.
7:46.
Me too.
So nice.
You did